movie begins with Arthur, a former hitman who faked his death, now living quietly in Rio de Janeiro under a new identity. One day, while dining at a restaurant, he's approached by a woman named Renee. She reveals that she knows who he really is and says her employer wants Arthur to eliminate 3 targets and make their deaths look accidental. If he refuses, they'll expose that he's still alive. Arthur pretends to make a phone call but secretly snaps a photo of Renee. She quickly pulls a gun, but Arthur knocks over the table to defend himself. Renee's men rush in, but Arthur fights back using whatever he can find: tables, utensils, even the grill. He eventually escapes by jumping onto a passing cable car. Renee and her men follow him onto the tram and try to shoot him. When Renee climbs toward him, Arthur makes a daring leap onto a nearby hang glider and gets away. That evening, he returns to his boat and sees some strangers snooping around. Using a remote, he triggers explosives he had set earlier, destroying the boat and the intruders. Arthur then heads to a hidden shipping container where he stores his old gear. He burns his fake ID and takes on a new one. Soon after, he travels to Thailand, where his friend Mi lets him stay in his old hut. Beneath the floorboards, Arthur retrieves his hidden weapons and equipment. He starts digging into Renee's background and learns she works for Crane, a dangerous figure from his past. The following day, a woman named Gina stops by Mi's place asking for some medical supplies. Mi notices bruises on her, but Gina refuses any further help. Later that night, Mi hears shouting from a nearby boat and sees Gina being attacked by a man named Frank. Concerned, she asks Arthur to intervene. Though hesitant at first, Arthur agrees, partly out of a sense of duty to Mi. When Arthur arrives at the boat, he calmly asks Frank to let Gina go. Instead, Frank lashes out. Arthur defends himself, and during the fight, Frank falls and hits his head hard, dying instantly. Gina faints at the sight, and Mi comes aboard to help bring her back to shore. While searching the boat, Arthur finds a gun, Gina's passport, and a phone containing a photo of himself. Suspecting foul play, he sets the boat on fire to erase any evidence. Back at the hut, Arthur wakes Gina and confronts her with a gun, demanding answers. She tries to fight him, but he quickly overpowers her. Under pressure, she admits Crane is behind everything. She doesn't work for him directly, he's blackmailing her. Her job was to pretend to be a victim to gain Arthur's trust, but Frank took the act too far. Gina was supposed to signal Crane once she got close to Arthur, but Arthur stops her from doing so. He tells her they'll deal with Crane on his terms. Later, he learns Gina once worked for a humanitarian group that helped people in Cambodia. Arthur asks Gina what Crane is using to control her. She tells him that she used to run a shelter for human trafficking survivors. A few weeks ago, one of her staff members went missing. 2 days later, the woman's body was left on Gina's doorstep. Then Crane sent a warning: if she didn't do what he asked, his men would kill the children in her care. So Gina agreed to help him set up Arthur. While they're talking, Arthur spots a boat offshore with men watching the beach. He figures they work for Crane. To fool them, Arthur takes Gina's hand and walks with her along the shore to make it seem like her mission is working. Mi notices this, and during a party she's hosting that night, pairs them together in a traditional Thai ceremony. Surprisingly, Arthur and Gina enjoy themselves and share a real connection. That evening, Gina apologizes for dragging him into her mess. Arthur says he understands. He too was once a child with no one. He reveals that he was sold to a criminal group as a boy and trained to become a soldier. Crane was part of that world too. Arthur managed to escape, but Crane didn't. He believes Crane was blamed for Arthur's escape and now wants revenge. Arthur and Gina share a kiss and spend the night together. In the morning, Arthur promises her that he's been quietly planning a way for her to escape safely without putting the kids at risk. He refuses to carry out the killings Crane demanded. He only plans to take down Crane himself. As a sign of trust, he gives her his father's old watch, the only thing he has left from him. But their peace is short-lived. The next morning, a group of supposed police officers arrives at the beach. Gina quickly recognizes one of them as one of Crane's men. Arthur fights back, but while he's distracted, the men manage to kidnap Gina. Left with no other option, Arthur agrees to meet with Crane face-to-face. Soon after, Crane contacts Arthur with a deal. If he wants Gina back alive, he must kill 3 specific people and make each death look like an accident. The first target is Krill, a powerful African arms dealer currently locked up in a high-security prison in Malaysia. To track Arthur after the mission, Crane gives him a pill that he must swallow once the job is done. While Arthur prepares, Gina is kept captive on one of Crane's private boats. Arthur heads to Malaysia and starts gathering intel on the prison. It's built on a cliffside and surrounded by shark-infested waters, making a normal infiltration impossible. Arthur devises a risky plan. He buys explosives and hides them inside chewing gum, mixes shark repellent into a container disguised as skin cream, and hides the tracking pill inside a cigarette. Then he creates a fake identity, posing as a dangerous international criminal, to make sure he gets arrested and sent into the prison. Once in the streets of Malaysia, he's quickly recognized and captured. At the prison intake, guards don't inspect his belongings closely and let him keep everything. Over the next few days, Arthur lays low, using the time to talk to other inmates and gather information on Krill. He learns Krill still runs his empire from inside the prison. Surrounded by loyal men, he's considered untouchable, even behind bars. Arthur observes the daily routines and notices a knife quietly changing hands between prisoners. During lunch one day, he intentionally bumps into them and discreetly lifts the knife without being noticed. Later on, a former associate of Krill tries to attack him in the prison yard, seeking revenge. Arthur steps in and takes the man down with a swift knife strike, saving Krill's life. Impressed by his skill, Krill invites Arthur to have dinner that evening. Arthur agrees, but only if Krill meets him alone without his guards. Surprisingly, Krill accepts. That night, Arthur is escorted to Krill's private hut. During the meal, Krill offers him a position in his operation. But as soon as Krill turns his back, Arthur seizes the moment. He grabs him from behind and chokes him to death. To stage the scene, Arthur takes the snake venom Krill uses in his rituals and adds it to his drink, making it look like a self-inflicted death. Then he places Krill's body in a meditative pose. When the guards outside grow suspicious due to the silence, they assume he's deep in prayer and leave him alone. Arthur uses the chewing gum bomb to blow open a wall and create an escape route. He swallows the tracking pill, rubs shark repellent on himself, and dives into the ocean before the guards can react. Crane's men pick him up in a fishing boat, and Arthur escapes. Soon after, Crane video calls Arthur to confirm Gina is still safe. He then gives Arthur the second name on his list, Adrian Cook, a wealthy human trafficker based in Australia. After arriving in the country, Arthur begins observing his next target. Cook lives in a heavily secured penthouse that's nearly impossible to get into. However, Arthur notices a unique detail, a glass-bottom pool that hangs out over the street below. To get a better view, Arthur hires a helicopter and studies the building's layout from a distance. Then, he poses as a wealthy buyer and visits a nearby apartment under the pretense of making a purchase. During the tour, he discreetly calls the realtor's phone to distract her. While she's answering, he quickly photographs the apartment keys, planning to duplicate them later. To prepare for the next hit, Arthur creates a compact but powerful chemical explosive designed to break glass and mimic structural failure. A few days later, he disguises himself as a building technician to slip into Cook's high-rise undetected. With the duplicate key he made earlier, Arthur enters a nearby apartment, then uses climbing gear to exit through the window and scale the building. He reaches the edge of Cook's cantilever pool and quietly drills a small hole in the glass bottom to insert the explosive. Cook, swimming inside, spots Arthur and begins calling for help. But before anyone can respond, the glass starts to crack. Arthur quickly rappels down the building just as the pool shatters, sending Cook plummeting to his death. News of Cook's accident spreads fast. Crane sees the report and prepares for another video call with Arthur. Meanwhile, Gina is made to sit in front of a window aboard the boat. She notices the hull number visible behind her and cleverly shifts the camera angle so it's in the frame. When the call begins, she lifts her hand to show Arthur the watch he gave her, an unspoken signal to pay attention. Arthur spots the number just before the call is cut short by Crane's men. With the clue in hand, Arthur tracks down the boat's location and arranges for a helicopter to fly him there. Equipped with a bag of specialized gear, he dives into the water near the vessel, hides the bag beneath it, and climbs aboard. Once on the ship, Arthur silently takes out several guards, but eventually he's spotted and a brutal fight breaks out. Gina is taken from her room as the chaos erupts. She tries to resist, but her limited training isn't enough and she's forced into a waiting helicopter. Meanwhile, Arthur wrestles one of the guards and grabs his grenade. Using the man's body as cover, he throws the grenade to knock out several attackers. Just when it seems he's gaining the upper hand, more guards arrive and overpower him. They tase Arthur into submission and take him captive. Shortly after, Arthur and Gina are taken aboard another vessel where Crane confronts them. He tells Arthur he expected him to pull a stunt, because he always does, but still demands he complete the third and final kill. Once Crane leaves, the guards try to take Arthur away, but he fights back, taking them down before diving overboard. Underwater, Arthur retrieves the gear he had hidden earlier, including an oxygen tank and a mini propulsion device. Using them, he escapes safely. A few days later, Arthur arrives in Bulgaria. His final target is Max Adams, an American arms dealer. While investigating, Arthur discovers that Adams operates from a heavily fortified base where he stores submarines armed with intercontinental missiles. It soon becomes clear that Crane's real plan isn't just to use Arthur. It's to eliminate all his competitors in the arms trade. This makes Arthur rethink his mission. Later, Arthur snipes one of Adams' guards from a distance, drawing attention. He then sneaks onto the rooftop of a hospital and hides inside an emergency helicopter. The chopper is soon dispatched to Adams' compound to evacuate the injured man. While everyone is distracted during the arrival, Arthur slips inside the facility unnoticed. Once in, he plants a jammer to disable the security cameras, then moves through the compound, silently eliminating guards as he goes. The base quickly goes on high alert, and Adams is rushed toward his panic room. Arthur delays them by sabotaging the elevator. By the time Adams finally reaches his safe room, Arthur is already waiting. But instead of killing him, Arthur proposes a different plan. He wants Adams to join him in taking down Crane. Adams agrees, and they stage his fake death. Sometime later, as Adams inspects one of his submarines, a controlled explosion goes off beneath a metal walkway, making it seem like he's been killed. Arthur is already waiting underwater and shares his oxygen tank with Adams as they swim away to a nearby beach, alive, and ready for the next phase of their plan to bring down Crane. Crane watches the news reporting that Max Adams was killed in an explosion, his body buried under rubble beneath the sea. Just then, Arthur calls him and confirms the third kill. But Crane isn't convinced. He wants proof. Arthur tells him the body is underwater and hangs up. Suspicious, Crane sends a team to recover the body and to hunt down Arthur. Meanwhile, Arthur returns to the submarine facility and sets up traps throughout the area. When Crane's men arrive, they're picked off one by one. Some fall into traps. Others are taken out by Arthur from the shadows. Realizing Arthur is coming for him next, Crane prepares a last line of defense. He places Gina out in the open as bait. Arthur swims underwater to reach Crane's boat and launches an all-out assault, silently eliminating guards along the way. Crane watches on the cameras and quickly orders Gina to be brought inside. Just as he does, Arthur destroys the surveillance system. During the chaos, Gina fights back but is injured in the stomach. A guard throws her into the jacuzzi, where Crane grabs her and takes her deeper into the boat. He then activates a bomb hidden on board and escapes to his backup vessel. Moments later, Arthur finds Gina and learns about the bomb. He rushes to get her into an emergency escape pod and launches her to safety. Then Arthur goes after Crane. After fighting through the last guards, Arthur confronts him. During the brawl, Crane uses the anchor chain to trap Arthur's leg, but Arthur turns the tables and uses the same chain to tie Crane to the boat. Crane laughs, thinking Arthur has no way out now, but Arthur doesn't panic. He runs into the boat just before it explodes. Gina, floating in the pod, watches in horror as the ship erupts in flames. She cries, believing Arthur is dead. Thankfully, the explosion alerts the Coast Guard and she's rescued. Elsewhere, Adams watches the wreckage being pulled from the water. Something about the remains seems off, especially when he spots a nearby security camera. Weeks later, Gina is back in Cambodia helping the children again. She writes a thank you letter for a water filter donation, unaware who sent it. One afternoon while she's teaching, she's stunned to see Arthur standing there, alive. At the same time, Adams reviews footage from Crane's boat and makes a discovery. The vessel had a diving bell, an underwater chamber that traps breathable air. He rewatches the footage and confirms it. Arthur escaped using the diving bell. Impressed, Adams deletes the footage, choosing to protect Arthur's secret and future. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more thrilling recaps just like this one. Thanks for watching.